Da 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 da. What's my good chair? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I have been at it today, and I have not been at it today. This word we picked this week. Yesterday, we picked a word to work on, a powerful word, a very, very powerful word to work on all week. And we got this word forgiveness. And in all reality, I have to say, this is our second time with this word. Second round. It's really funny, too, because if you guys have been following me since the very beginning, starting this kind of adventure in picking these powerful words, and if you just coming into these lives now, we have been picking 54 powerful words each week, picking a word, and each day looking at it through a different perspective, through an experience, right? Maybe through somebody else's experience. Sometimes it's something that I've never come across and it's brand new and fresh for me. And this is how I'm coming at this word this week: forgiveness. This word forgiveness, what did we have? It was our 16th word, forgiveness, and it's the second word that we've gotten twice since we started this again little adventure. And I'm picking these words randomly, but if you've been with me since the very beginning, you knew how excited I was, right? I was really hoping it was going to be one of the first top 10 words that we got. It was a word that I thought that, you know, I did myself proud by it, and maybe I stumbled onto it. Maybe it was accidentally. Maybe it was a test by the universe to see if it was possible that there would be some kind of resolution that I could make a little bit of movement forward, or if anybody else might be able to make a little bit of movement forward in the appreciation and in the delving into and in the experience of forgiveness. I've talked a few times about that evening I spent in the hospital with my mother, right? Talking to her about, how she wanted us to go about putting her to rest, right? To actually explain to her that she really was passing away. She was very sick and she kept it a secret. She didn't like doctors. She didn't trust hospitals. Uh, when she went in for knee replacement, we told the doctor, you better do both knees at the same time because we are never, ever, ever going to be able to get her back into the hospital again. And we talked her in. All us kids, we rallied together as a team and we got my mother into the hospital. And for the first time after that operation, and within 6 weeks, she was doing mall walks. And for the first time in over 30 years, she was pain free in in her legs. In any case, we wanted to get her ankles done too, but there was no way we were going to get her into the hospital again for another operation, even though the first one worked out so well. So it doesn't surprise me that my mother kept her illness. My mother ended up getting stomach cancer, and it spread pretty far, and she had it for a very, very long time. My mother, again, she hid it from us kids. Right? We each one of us get to make our choices, and I can't question the choices that she made, because I knew that my mother struggled in her well-being. My mother had 12 different rheumatoid arthritis. Every time there was a new drug coming out, a new discoveries, a new trial, they were putting her on it, just like they did with my father with the congenital heart disease. Except the fact was, my dad was a willing participant. He was willing to let himself be the guinea pig in the possibility that he might be able to extend his life, right? My mother, right? She was pretty much done, right? She was pretty much done. We got this word forgiveness again this week. Today I spent the day by myself, right? Pampering myself, colored my hair, did my bangs, right? Trying to make myself feel good in that process, that I was going to be my own mentor today, because I was going to spend it in contemplation, because right, the serendipities of how these words have been coming and when they've been coming for us to tear through, and maybe not as a lesson in that repetitiveness, that sequencing that it was coming in for you, but for myself, very curious how it's been coming at me. And now to get this word forgiveness, I know, right? I tripped over myself when I got this word forgiveness. We were still fairly new into, right, how we were going to go about um, this show and introducing these words and working with them each week. I was surprised, because it came to be heavy. It came to be really deep lessons that served me well, right? And hopefully in my stumbling about in sharing those lessons, that other people got lessons in it too. And, and like I said yesterday, I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with this, and I'm understanding it a little bit, and I'm appreciating the lessons. I really am appreciating the lessons, even though the lessons are work. And lots of people would call this shadow work, wouldn't they? They would be a little bit of that self help for ourselves, that little bit of understanding of where we got it wrong and where we got it right. And I have to say, it's serving me, and but it's not fun. And if there was an out, maybe I would politely back away into the shadows of this and pivot into something different, pivot into something possibly a little bit more fun. But my brand is fun. It's meant to be light. But these lessons are important. These lessons are necessary. So the best that I could do is chomp on it in small bites, take those baby steps, pamper myself, right? Make sure that I'm feeling good through the process. I made myself a nice roast and roasted potatoes and vegetables for dinner, right? Intermittently, in between of getting things done. Not as much as I would have liked to, but still getting things done. But at the same time, just being with myself, right? Because I have to delve a little bit deeper into this word forgiveness, because it came up a second time. So I'm going to put that extra effort in. And I know where I fluffed over the lessons in forgiveness. It was instantly clear to me where I did that. And it comes into that relationship, that loving, magical, spectacular, movement forward, influential relationship that I had with my father and how that relationship needed some forgiveness. It's true, right? I don't want to think negative of the people that I love the most. I don't want to think that the people I cared for and loved the most didn't look at me in the same way, that I might not have been as an important ingredient in their recipe as they were in my recipe. And in failing in, right, really delving into this word forgiveness and really making sure that I fairly divvied that out, right? Right? Because there was forgiveness needed all, even for my own self, to forgive my own self, right? I needed that. But to fluff over something that needed attention. And it is that idea of, right, taking care of the kids for the next generation, that these are our leaders and these are our potentials. And in our own selfishness and sometimes in our own fears, sometimes because of our own movement forward and those understandings that sometimes, right, we get cross-wired and we don't understand them properly. Sometimes, with those strings that fall, that when our scariest moments come and our most desperate moments come, that we just grasp at anything for survival, that we are the ones that are drowning out in the ocean and those ones that swim out to us to save us, that we're the ones that are wrapping our legs around their necks, right? And in taking somebody else down in our own attempt to survive, right? This is what I'm contemplating today. Heavy stuff, isn't it? Right? But I did it in baby steps today, right? Knowing that it had to be done, right? I'm not a religious person, right, Cindy? There are parts of me that are very religious, right? Epigenetically, religion has played a role in my family's history going back hundreds and hundreds of years, 700 years. My family tree goes back. We got bishops and archbishops and nuns, right? But I suspect also that we have a bit of that spiritual, that little bit of magical going on. That the possibility that I woke up to any of these ideas, to even attempt at 54 words, right? And that's that diehard in me. That's that never give up, right? That's that committed. And I committed to that. And so I'm going to follow through with the next 28 words because this week we're on repeat. We're on repeat. So the 27th word again, because it's the second word, so it doesn't count. So it's almost like we got 2 words for halfway there, right? We got this word synthesis and we got this word forgiveness by going back to that relationship with my father that needed some forgiveness because, right, I held it against my father for not protecting me, right? But it's in our strengths and in our weaknesses, and it's in the recognition of those strengths and weaknesses that we see in each other and appreciate in each other, that we can recognize whether or not somebody intended or if they even had the lessons to do a little bit better by their children than what their parents did for themselves. And my father did that for us, right? And he did. And I carried on in that work, and I suspect that my nieces and nephews will, right? That we are a lot better in this this family going forward because of the lessons that my father, in his own evidence, right? He had to be his own evidence because he didn't teach me any of this. Maybe through how he did in his parenting, teaching us through quotes, because my father loved quotes. That because I was so hyper vigilant, that I paid attention, because I love my father so much, that I paid attention to him, and I recognized, right, when I bumped into it again, that possibly it wasn't just my mother who had problems, that my father, he was living the best life for himself that he possibly could. He was sucking up life. He was making every moment, every day count, right? And maybe he didn't take into consideration how he was living his life and how it was going to impact his life. I do believe he did in some aspects, but in a lot of aspects he didn't. So I'm grateful for my love in history, that because I understand in an evolutionary process that each one of us is going to evolve at a different pace with different lessons because of, right, our cultures, our traditions, our religious beliefs, our political ideas, right? Our jealousies and our resentments, and right, I landed all that negative emotion in my mother's lap when she just wasn't capable of all of that. But my father, right, he was a little bit more conscious in his ideas. My father knew better, and he knew what was going on, and right, I have to offer up that understanding, and I have to look at it in an evolutionary way in order to be able to digest it by understanding that, right, my dad didn't just have that lesson, right? He just didn't have that lesson. And I have to understand that he was trying to make the best life for himself as he possibly can. And he took his family along for that ride. And he could have done it a little bit differently. But we all make mistakes. And, right, if he had a chance to recognize those mistakes, then maybe he could have done a little bit better by his family, right? But I could have been a little bit understanding. I could have been, right? I don't know what I could have been. I was playing it to the best of my abilities at the same time. So I have to add that forgiveness for myself in my own evolution, understanding, right? That it just comes downhill, doesn't it? We can only learn what our guardians have learned, right? And we just hope that possibly in the next generation that we'll do a little bit better by ourselves, right? My dad got a lot right. My dad made it possible that I could be sitting here right now having these conversations because, right, I might have swung the other way. My dad might have made different decisions when it concerned his relationship with my mother. I could have not had my father in my life, right? My father could have, right? Could have been too painful for him and he could have just, right? Just up and, right? But he wouldn't have done that. He loved his family and he wanted to contribute to that, but he contributed to the best of his abilities and not necessarily in the best way for me or any of the other kids, right? And he wasn't the only person who was in guardianship of us, right? So I offered up that forgiveness to my mother, and the least that I can do in really taking a look at this word forgiveness is to forgive myself, right? Also, I can't cats in a box. I'm trying to over talk. I'm over talk, and at the same time, I'm losing my flow, right? By being conscious of my cat in her cat litter box. She's sweet and she's done, right? And I didn't lose a beat in that because in this word forgiveness, I used to get in trouble as kids all the time. My mother used to like to take the sides of my sisters all the time, and I just didn't have to play dodgeball with my mother. I had to play dodgeball with my sister quite a bit, right? My sisters, and they just loved to blame me for everything. And I had this idea that when my mother would get upset with me for right? My sister go, or Tracy would go, Cindy did this to me, or Cindy said this, and I would get in trouble for it, or I'd get a spanking, or I'd get punished in some way, and I would always have to say to myself, right, you did something wrong, Cindy. You might not have done that. That might not have been true, right? But getting in trouble now, you did something wrong in the past few days. So you just add that to that, right? Right? And just count it as payback. And there were lots of things that I did wrong, right? I pull my sister's hair, go off, stay out too late, not be home on time for dinner. There were lots of things as a child's mind that you could make reasons up for right things that were happening to you, or right, or the way that you felt, right? But for the most part, was a lot of acceptance in that. And I think I accepted a lot that I shouldn't have accepted, right? And it is in a lot of those traditions. It's in a lot of that family upbringing, a lot of that, right? Household rules, right? And each one of them is going to be a little bit different. And as much as there were difficult things, right? Things that might have caused me some issues as a teenager, as a child, as a young adult, as a mature person, even right now, there were things that were very right? And I don't think without a lot of the problems that I had, that I might not have recognized, and I might not have this opportunity right now to do the course correcting that I'm doing, that I wouldn't be delving in to all these words, right? I wouldn't be so stubborn and steadfast in my ideas, which have been passed down to me, right? That I got to pick and choose the best or the worst of it from each or both of my parents. And we don't just learn these things from our parents, we learn them from our friends. And so if you're divvying out forgiveness, you got to divvy it out everywheres. But I think we should start with ourselves. I saw you there, Melvin. I saw you there. Thank you so much for popping in. Thank you for keeping me company. We got this word forgiveness again. It's a heavy one. I remember last time we delved into it, it was very heavy for me. And you guys just telling that story and right now, because we are responsible for the next generation, right? Each one of us is trying to make the best life for ourselves as we possibly can. But lots of times we make that best life for ourselves at the expense of the people that we love, right? And, I've done it too. I'm in it right now. And it's not with intent, but it's through the lessons that I understand that I have to be the spectator, and each one of us has to make those decisions. And, right, I'm in it now and I have to take care of myself. But that doesn't mean that my heart doesn't go out to those who are just starting those lessons that possibly, right, that I might not have to take again. But this lesson, forgiveness, I have to take it again, and I have to take it seriously, because I know that it's only in the repetitiveness. And, right, I know that if in the next 28 weeks we get this word forgiveness again, well, I know I didn't cover it properly. But I knew that I was not saving face for myself, but I was kind of, right, because I love and I care for these people. And these people aren't even here anymore. I love my father as much today as, right, when I was a kid or when he first passed away, right? He, he's more in my memories now because he's a big part of all the lessons, because, right, I am my father's daughter, so I have to go in and I'm not just looking at my life and my experiences and my decisions. I'm looking at his life, his choices, his decisions, right? And the consequences of those, right? And how it worked for him and how it didn't work for him. And I'm doing the same thing for my mother. And it gives me the opportunity again for a second chance to take on or release some of these choices that I've made in the qualities that each one of them have in the creation of the best human being that I possibly could be. That's all I've got for you tonight. I have been in it, right? I'm still in it. And, right, in keeping with this idea of making sure that I'm enjoying the process, right? I took lots of breaks today. It was on my mind all day long, taking in the notes along with those other lessons, right? That are in the differences and in the comparisons of pleasures and happiness, right? And there was also something in, oh yeah, here it is, the lesson for me in getting clear in what I want, right? And I'm going to start by what I don't want. I don't want miss lessons, right? I don't want to move forward with problems that are going to stop me from being able to help other people that might have the same problems that I grew up with, right? That kind of caused a lot of hiccups along the way, right? But at the same time stop them from, right, making a little bit of movements for themselves. And even though I started in this a little bit late, I'm treading water, right? And whether or not I'm catching up, I don't know. I have nothing to compare it with. You guys, have a great night. Thank you, Melvin, for popping into my live tonight. We'll catch everybody tomorrow where we'll be looking at this word forgiveness in a different perspective, a different confession, with a little bit more enthusiasm. That would be great, right? How about a little bit of optimism? How about a little bit of optimism that I was able to even get to forgiveness? There's one. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Nancy. Right? Oh, now there's somebody I would be curious to talk with. about forgiveness, because Nancy in her life, right? Forgiveness, that's a topic. That's definitely a topic. Okay, you guys. You were lurking tonight. You're amazing. Thank you for popping in, you guys. Have a great night. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye bye.